Good evening. Good evening. It's nice to see so many smiling faces. We've got a microphone tonight, which is shouting at me. Is everybody else? Is it too loud? Is everybody else making? Right. That's good. Well, welcome to our charter dinner. This is the 46th charter dinner of Gourock Rotary. Our speaker this evening is Jonathan Fleming, the Reverend Jonathan Fleming, and we look forward to hearing from Jonathan later on. Jonathan was to speak to us at Christmas, but I'm not saying Christmas was cancelled.
Not far off.
But here, as far as our Rotary celebrations here are concerned, it was. So Jonathan has kindly agreed to come along tonight, and look forward to hearing him later on. Welcome to guests. Finlay Sim is here as the president of Greenock Rotary with 4 other Greenock members. Would you like to introduce them?
Indeed. Thank you, President Jim, fellow Rotarians, honoured guests. Myself, as Jim mentioned, president of Greenock Rotary, with my wife Isabel, and Love, and Knox, and Phil Knox.
Thank you very much. Apologies from Jim Adamson, Ian Campbell, Bob Cummings, Richie Phillips, Ian McNaughton, Dave Turnbull, and John McLeod. I mean, thank goodness they didn't come because we wouldn't have got them all. Anyway, don't tell them that. That's fine. And really, I sometimes do a thought for today, what happened, last year, whatever. But my thought for today was the 17th of May, 1976, which was the day we were chartered as Gourock Rotary Club. Other clubs helped, well, one particular club helped to get us going and started us, and that was the Greenock Club. So it's good to see so many of you here tonight to support us. And since then, that was 46 years ago, we seem to be managing not too badly. So that's that. So that was the first thought. And then when I looked that up, 17th of May 1976, I see that ABBA was top of the pops with Fernando.
Can you sing it for us?
Yes. I'll talk about this later, but I think Lloyd Thompson would probably want to sing it. Also, the Queen, I don't remember this, it's written down, so it must be true, but it said the Queen was at Murrayfield when Scotland beat England in the Calcutta Cup. Now, I don't remember the Queen being at Murrayfield, but Princess Anne at least did. But that's what it says. And 1976 was also a heat wave. Now, not necessarily this day, but it was a heat wave. I mean, like broke all records, very much a heat wave. So, funny how we forget these things, isn't it? So, now if we could have grace. O thou who kindly dost provide for every creature's want, we bless thee, Lord, of nature wide, for all thy goodness lent. And if it please thee, heavenly guide, may never worse be sent, for whether granted or denied, Lord bless us with content. Amen. Amen.
I'll be rude, I'll take the last one.
Come on, just shut up.
My apologies for those of you who have not finished the coffee. We'll just start, if you don't mind. And can we have the royal toast?
No, it's not.
The Queen.
The Queen.
Now, I'll just carry on with a little bit of business. Have we any visits to other clubs? Have Greenock visited any other clubs apart from tonight? No. Okay. Visitor to the... Oh, sorry, Norman, I didn't see.
I had the pleasure of going on to Zoom with the district meeting on youth activities on Monday.
Right.
And it was interesting and quite useful.
Okay, and were you able to tell them anything? Because I'm sure you're doing as much as anybody.
No, you weren't given it. Well, you could talk, but I decided I'd keep it to myself.
It's been recorded, please. Yes.
Tell them nothing, though.
Tell them nothing.
Tell them nothing.
Visitor to the sick. This is where I say, is anybody more sick than normal? And Ian Campbell isn't here tonight. He's got a wee bit of a kidney infection, so I'm sure he'll be fine for next week. But we hope to see him. It's his round. Anyone wishing to address the meeting? Okay. Inverclyde Voices. Now, Boyd, Alan and Ian McNaughton are in Inverclyde Voices, and they have a concert in Largs on the 7th of June. And the leaflet on it here, if anybody wants to see it, and Boyd is also here to promote it. But as you know, it's a local choir and they're looking for support. So let's see what we can do. Thank you.
President Jim,
Yes, Boyd.
if I could just say about it, money that, or part of the money that we raise, the choir itself is giving pound for that, and we're going to be giving it to the Ukrainian families who have come to Inverclyde. There are currently 3 by the time we have the concert that we expect there to be 4. So we're going to be giving them the money rather than it going into a general fund and disappearing somewhere. We're going to keep it as local as we can.
Excellent. And now on this Charter Dinner night, I want to reflect on the history of the club very quickly, because last year we organised it in such a way that we had the first 7 presidents that were still here to talk on a couple of minutes of their interesting things that happened and things like that in their year. So tonight I'm going to ask 2 of our past presidents from slightly nearer years to talk, and the first one is Bruce Drummond, who was president in 2005 and 2006. So we can all remember what happened in 2005 and 2006. I mean, I can't remember. I can't remember what I had for my tea last night, but I can remember something, and we will be reminded of it by Bruce.
Thank you,
President Jim. When Jim contacted me a couple of months ago to say would I do this, I said that wouldn't be any. Well, it wasn't a couple of months ago, was it?
Yesterday.
Tuesday. I said we'll have a go. So we're having a go. So my year was, as Jim has just said to you, 2005 to 2006. I'm only going to talk about a couple of highlights that I can remember from that year. The first of which was a visit to the Scottish Parliament, and that's the actual programme. We had a coach pickup which didn't go, Jim reminded me, didn't go all that smoothly. We missed some people who were standing in the wrong place. And we went to the Scottish Parliament and we did the tour, and we went for high tea, and it was a jolly good day. I haven't got any Rotary photographs of the Scottish Parliament, but I did manage to get a couple of stock photos. My vivid memory of this day was I chose to sit down in one of the seats in the debating chamber, and I was immediately approached by the security, who informed me that only members of the Scottish Parliament were allowed to sit in the chairs. And I said, well, I've been in the Swedish Parliament, I've been in the Norwegian Parliament, I've been in the Danish Parliament, and we were invited to sit in the representatives' chairs. It doesn't matter, you're not sitting in the So that was that. I will always remember, as president of the Rotary Club, being ejected from a seat.
Well done.
Probably more important, and a very vivid memory for me, was the 30th anniversary charter. So the same night as tonight, only the 30th, not the 46th. And it was in, you'll remember, the Ramada Jarvis Hotel. and we had a lineup of dignitaries. You can see here the programme. We had Ken Thompson, the late Ken Thompson, who spoke about how it all began. We had a musical interlude. Our main speaker was another man of the cloth, Father John Fitzsimmons. You could speak all night about Father John Fitzsimmons, so we'll move on. Elizabeth Todd again, and we had the District Governor, Jim Copeland. We do have an Assistant Governor here tonight, I believe. So, and then we made 4 Paul Harris Award presentations. I've brought 1 or 2 photographs along just to maybe refresh your memories. That's the top table. You'll see people here who are no longer with us, by the way, quite a few of them. I'm just looking at this photograph, for instance.
You're the only one left, Jim.
Was that me?
There's Douglas Brands in the window over there, look. And John Pow. Richie Folds and Elma are there, I think.
Yep.
Hugh McClure, yeah. And that's Father John Fitzsimmons, just about to launch into his tirade, if that's the right word. A very interesting character. I'm not going to go through it all. He was sitting next to Helen, so she managed to pick his brain. One of the most interesting things about him was that he revealed that when he was the head of the Scots College in Rome, he was also in charge of the Vatican vineyard. Now, there are only 2 vineyards inside Rome itself. One belongs to the Vatican and the other one belonged to Sophia Loren. And he formed a very close allegiance with Sophia Loren.
Purely for playing interest.
He is a very interesting guy. So, or he was rather, because he sadly passed away, I think, just recently, didn't he? So we awarded 4 Paul Harris Fellowships. Richie Folds and Ken Thompson, the late Ken Thompson. Eddie McCluskey, if you remember, was the Otters, and John Pow. And I've got a photograph of the 4 gentlemen, along with the Provost and the District Governor. And I think, you know, that's my 2 minutes up.
Yes. Yes, you were within the time, well done. And Norman was president in 2008 and 2009. So I'll ask Norman Pettigrew, once they sort out the iPad, to have a word. Thank you.
Jim, thank you for the advance warning for this presentation, which I immediately forgot about and only realised at 5:30 tonight that I had to give a presentation. Anyway, I put together this slide from the internet about the highlight of my year, but apart from this, we did have a trip to Mount Stewart House, and we also went to see ABBA the musical in the SECC, which was enjoyed by many, but I remember sitting beside a recently past president who sat there with his head in his hand saying, "I don't like this." It's not my cup of tea. Anyway, the highlight was our walk, where we had 1,000 school children walking in Battery Park, which was supposed to be 2 laps, but then the heavens opened, the rains came down, and they were getting soaked to the skin, so we had to call them back and get them back in buses. At the end of the day, we managed to raise £7,129, I think it was, which I think was quite worthwhile effort at that time. Apart from that, as regards my charter dinner, I honestly can't remember, and I couldn't find the files for them to see what we did. But I believe it was Alan Deck and some of the kids from the school that entertained us that evening. So that's my story within my 2 minutes.
Thank you, Norman. That was excellent. Great to see where we are. And now, it's my pleasure to ask Ross Finney to introduce Jonathan Fleming, our speaker tonight. Over there.
President, guests, fellow Rotarians, Just for your benefit, you touched a raw nerve with me as a former member of the Scottish Parliament. I wouldn't be surprised that you were ejected from the seat, because most of us who were there were paranoid about losing our seat. President, it is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker this evening, the Reverend Jonathan Fleming, who, as many of you, but maybe not all of you, will know, is the parish minister at Greenock Lyle Kirk. But before I do so, I have to make a declaration of interest. I am the session clerk of Greenock Lyle Kirk, and accordingly it is possible that after I have delivered this 15-page introduction of unbridled acclamation, some members might be heard muttering, well, he would say that, wouldn't he? And you'll be right. Jonathan has been the minister at Lyle Kirk for 1 year and 8 days. He and his wife Karen and his young daughters Rachel and Holly moved from Largs, where Jonathan had been the minister of Cumbria and St John, Largs St John's. A product of Glasgow Academy, Jonathan did not actually start out to be a minister. He graduated from Glasgow University with an MA in French language and literature, a course which forced him to endure 8 months in the French city of Poitiers, where I believe he very nearly stayed, and that we would have been the poorer for that. And then he was working as an English language assistant in primary and secondary schools. He then intended to study for moral philosophy and information management and preservation, but he had to withdraw from that course on account of the fact that his father had been found to be terminally ill, and so Jonathan stepped out of that to take over the family business, which was on the meat trade. And from there he then took the turning which was to make his career, as he returned to Glasgow University, but this time to Trinity College to take a Bachelor of Divinity in Ministry, graduating with honours in 2011. Onwards to his first charge in Erskine, and the rest, as they say, is history. Jonathan lists as his other interests, in addition to quality time with his family, music, reading, cookery, and photography. Jonathan, we are all looking forward very much indeed to your talk, which I understand is entitled The Church and the Community, a subject which has gained considerable and more particular relevance in the last 24 hours, with 100,000 Rangers fans returning to their communities with only one question on their lips: is there a God? Jonathan.
Oh dear.
Thank you, Ross. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here tonight to speak to you on this topic that's very dear to my heart about the church and the community. And it's wonderful to finally be here. I think you'll probably be quite relieved that I decided not to use the original "What Christmas Means to Me" talk from the charter dinner, from the dinner in Christmas time. So, as Ross has already said, I have been a parish minister for coming on 10 years. I was ordained in November 2012 to the charge of what is affectionately known as New Erskine Parish Church in the new town of Erskine that was built as a result of the Glasgow overspill in 1971. And ever since being ordained into ministry, I have held on to words that were shared by a great mind, none other than St. Francis of Assisi, who used the lines, "Preach the gospel, and where necessary, use words." Ever since I chose to become I'll rephrase that. Ever since I chose to make sense of what God was calling me to, namely parish ministry, I've been trying to make sense of what the role of the church is in the 21st century. Now, people will have different understandings of that, people will have different experiences of that. But one of the things that I learned very quickly was you cannot, as a church, simply open your doors and expect people to walk through them. You have to step outside. You have to make yourself known. You have to engage with people. You have to be with people where they're at. You have to walk with them through the good times and the bad times. And as a parish minister, I've had the honour of being able to walk with people through many good times, but also many very difficult times. From holding the hands of a dying person, to baptising a newborn baby, to walking with a family through a funeral when a loved one, when a child has died as a result of a cot death, to families who have lost young children through accidents and indeed through, as a result of many circumstances, suicides. You have the honour and the privilege of being invited to walk with a family through those difficult times. And it's in those moments that the church has an opportunity to show what it is all about. Because it's not all about the person whose name is on, the people are doing it, maybe they're watching it in the living room and then go out and do something and you never hear about it. You're not able to celebrate it and encourage them to do it more. What's been interesting is that vocabulary has changed very much as a result of that. Just a few weeks ago, I don't think anyone's actually noticed, I started to welcome people who were joining us on site and online, as opposed to saying people who are joining us in person and online. Because for the wheelchair user who struggles to get to church for a variety of reasons, they are still very much in person when they join online. And so it's been interesting to now learn how to be inclusive with your online community and to affirm their place as valid and as important as the person sitting in the pew. But to try and encourage where possible that bringing it with people together to allow for fellowship and support, to be able to eyeball someone and hear what's going on in their life and how we can help is so different to seeing a postage stamp on a laptop screen. But I do very much affirm it. I'm a big champion of digital ministry and have been delighted that we've been able to increase that load in Lelkirk and have a very good audience joining us for things beyond worship and indeed joining us as worshippers on Sunday. So thank you, Douglas.
Thank you. Any other questions? Bob?
You shared with us your experience in nursing in the community and in Largs and Hale Company, and you're here in 2 days or whatever we said you were here. Have you see as a gap in the community in the West End of Greenock?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Yes, absolutely. One of the things that has obviously been a big success in our situation in Lelkirk was the birthing in the early part of 2012-2013 of Lyle Gateway. And Lyle Gateway, as some of you may know, is an organisation, as a group that meet on a Tuesday and a Thursday in the Union Street building, where over food and tea and coffee and a variety of activities that go on, people who would otherwise feel isolated or people who are struggling are able to come and get company and to grow in fellowship together. It's also the home to a number of other organisations now, where people like Inverclyde Faith and Through Care, people who have come through the prison system and are now reintegrating into society, come with and are listened to by their support workers, as well as Your Voice and other organisations, because they feel that that building is a safe place to be. And what's wonderful about that example of serving a community is that everyone is treated equally. There are people there who will maybe never know everything that they have been in prison for, but the one thing that they do come out hearing from people of all different classes is that they are loved. And a lot of them leave with a hug. Some of them leave with a prayer because they're going on to a meeting or to maybe a medical appointment because of the damage they've done to themselves through addictions. But the church building has been seen as a safe place to be, and I hope and pray that continues. One of the things that we are now starting to see again is the huge burden on our mental health sector, where through no fault of the people that are in it, as in the practitioners, they are loaded to capacity. And I do hope that while we may not be rich in resources, the one thing that the church is rich in is time. And we can give time to people that doctors are not able to give in a 15-minute consultation. My hope and prayer is that organisations like Gateway, like the Kidron Project in the East End of Greenock, and other organisations that are now trying to work together to help in these sectors will become another part of a social prescription, where people will feel that this is an option, not the solution, but a place where people can come and go feeling loved, listened to, valued as part of God's creation, and being able to potentially be helped and signposted to the help they so desperately need. That's the area that I see the church playing its part in, going forward on top of everything else that it's already doing. Thank you for the question, Rob.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. That was really good. I enjoyed it. And could I ask Archie McKinley to give the club's thanks? Should I say President-elect Archie McKinley.
Thank you, actual President. Honoured guests, members. Jonathan, that was truly one of the most interesting talks we've ever had here. I find it very refreshing that the church is now going out into the community the way you're saying and being actively engaged in doing useful things like childcare and being involved in the mental health, and I wish you very, very well in that. That was superb. It was interesting to see that your first charge was Erskine, which reminds me of the late great Tom Shields, who ran a very interesting competition in the columns of the Herald where one had to translate Scottish place names into French. And Erskine, I remember, particularly was Pot de Cou, which I think was correct.
Yes, correct.
That was one of the ones that I can remember because it was filthy. Anyway, Jonathan, that was amazing. I hope that it continues to go on that way, and we commend you for your work in that direction. And join please with me in thanking Jonathan for his remarks. And thanks are also due, of course, to Bruce for taking us down memory lane to Ralph Webster's Parliament visit. I'd forgotten that you could throw it out, Bruce. Thank you for reminding me of that. And to Norman for the getting wet at the Battersea Park and all the rest. Thank you very much, guys. That was very interesting. Thank you.
Jonathan, would you accept this small gift from the club?
Thank you very much indeed.
And thanks very much for your talk.
No, pleasure. Thank you.
Our next meeting is next week, 26th of May, and the speaker is Andrew Bowman. Introduction is Bill Webster, and the vote of thanks is by Dave Turnbull. Could we have a concluding toast? Rotary International.